right, if it's okay, we'll dig in. Can you hear all right?
Yes.
Wonderful. So it was wonderful to hear you talk about what you do and why you do it, which is the focus of this. And I know that if you are in any form of education, you could probably understand this moment. We don't know sometimes if you should laugh or if you should cry. A few years ago, a first grade teacher was describing this moment. It was the end of the year, and the kids had written her little thank you notes. And she was reading through those. It got a little bit choked up. And she said to her first graders, "I'm sorry, I'm having a hard time reading right now." And one helpful first grader shared a suggestion she had been taught. "Why don't you just sound it out?" Thank you for being here. I don't know if we'll laugh or cry or both, but I am excited about this time and glad to be with you. So here's what we're gonna do. I'm gonna introduce the so what question by way of a personal story. Then after that, I'm gonna have you write down, or at least make a mental note of a few of the reasons you would name why you do what you do. Then I will name 5 of the kinds of things that some might put words on why you do what you do, or just a reminder. I do trust that and pray that for each person there's at least something here that God would have you hear through me or in spite of me, honestly. There'll be a few other prayers woven in, and we'll end with a guided meditation. It's a lot. I'll keep us moving. I hope it's also kind of fun. All right, so to frame the question, I will speak personally just for a moment. With all things new, there is great transition. I have some survivor's guilt. I am pastor at Sacred Heart in Eureka. I get to stay there. We're not closing or anything. One of my younger brothers is a priest also, Father Joe Kempf. When he got ordained after me, Mom and Dad finally got their wish, a nice priest in the family. And Bill loved where he was at St. Justin the Martyr. He said goodbye to all the masses this weekend. Storms blew out electricity, so they had no microphones, no air conditioning, and he will become pastor at Sacred Heart in Florissant, where they will eventually subsume Blessed Teresa of Calcutta, which is already merged, and Rose Philippine de Chêne, which is already merged. So he walks in with, the Archdiocese just consolidated 2 of the schools, so now he only has 2 schools, 3 churches, 4 campuses, 3 staffs. And he's trying to find where his toothbrush is, right? I am big brother and I feel very protective of him. And I remember what it was like for me to drive away from my last parish, Phelan, where I was 16 years, to come to Sacred Heart here in Eureka, where I'm very happy. It took a while to become home. But I spoke here, I think, a couple of years ago. I'm not good at that, but this is probably the only story I would repeat from that. My first Sunday Mass there, I'm scared, had the heaviness of goodbye, all the mixture of emotions, a bit still overwhelmed. And we get to the front, singing the opening song, and I feel something tug on my hymnal. I looked over and it was the sweetest thing. It's this little 5th grade girl trying to read, to sing along with me. And I, you hear God without words sometimes. I felt like God just said, I'm here too. So I pray for my brother that happens quickly, where there's moments like that where he knows that God is there also. So I don't know what all challenges you will face. You've named some of what you could expect to feel and some of what you have faced. And there is a price to pay for doing what's right. And I believe God will be with you. I do. I know that, and sometimes you just wonder if you're making a difference. And for as much as you care and sacrifice, sometimes some of us wonder, are we making a difference? Is it worth it? We all know the grim statistics. Thanks. How many fall away from the practice of their faith, and we see war and violence and heartache in so many ways. And sometimes the hurts come from the institution itself with which we serve. As the wonderful line in the song from Wicked says, sometimes it feels as to no good deed goes unpunished. And so I once heard this 1,000 years ago. Sometimes trying to stay loving and true is like fighting a gorilla. You can't stop when you're tired. You can only stop when the gorilla is tired. Yeah. Anyway, I like that. It doesn't seem like the gorilla is tired, is the point. And so, and if you've been at it for a while, why do you continue to do what you do? Why do you continue to care? Or as I say, when couples want to renew their vows for their 40th or 50th, knowing what you know now, you choose again to love each other in good times and bad, and sickness and health all the days of your lives. So there is no wrong answer. This is not guess what answer the teacher wants. But before I share my 5 possibilities, I invite you to make a mental note or jot down just a thing or two of how you would answer that. Why do you keep doing what you do? Why are you doing it? Again, no right answer, no wrong answer. You will not have to share these out loud. Perhaps it is you need a paycheck, but you would not be doing what you do without also caring. So just a few moments just to think. Maybe later I'll come back to see if any of the ones I said were anything that you might have thought of as well. You got 28 seconds. I should have given you 40 seconds. Keep going. Eight, 7, 6, 5, etc. All right. Let's dig in. I think the first reason it makes sense that we keep doing what we're doing, whether or not we're aware of it or not, is this is true. We do make a difference. I would say you make a bigger difference than you know. And it truly matters that we do what we do with kindness. Someone said, I want to be able to do it with joy. I agree. Not that life is easy. We'll come back to that. But years ago, a pastor told me of this moment. He had received a note in the mail. It said simply, Dear Father, would you be so kind as to pass this letter on to the usher named Harry, who is at the 10 o'clock Mass every Sunday. I don't know his last name or address, but figured you know who he is and how to get this message to him. Thank you, Gert. That's all it said. The pastor gave the note to Harry, and Harry shared the note with the pastor, and this is what the note said. Dear Harry, I'm sorry I don't know your last name, but then you don't know mine. I'm Gert. Gert at the 10 o'clock Mass every Sunday, and I'm writing to ask a favor. I don't know the priests too well, but somehow I feel close to you. I don't know how you got to know my first name, but every Sunday morning, you smile and greet me by name, and we exchange a few words, how bad the weather was, you liked my head, etc. Or how I was late on a particular Sunday. I just wanted to say thank you for taking the time, for remembering an old woman, for the smiles, for your consideration, for your thoughtfulness. Now the favor. I am dying, Harry. My husband has been dead for 16 years and the kids are all scattered. It's very important to me that when they bring me to church for the last time, you will be there to say, hello, Gert, good to see you. And if you are there, Harry, I will feel assured that your warm hospitality will be duplicated in my new home in heaven. With love and gratitude, Gert. Harry the usher was just doing what he did. And he did it with kindness. And he would have never known what a difference he would have made. For me, it was time when I was scared that God used a little 5th grade girl's earnestness to say, I am here. She was just doing her best. And the point is, you have no idea what difference you make. You stay true, you do your best, you enjoy what seem like successes, you anguish over the failures and setbacks, and you worry about the people entrusted to your care, and you cling to the hope that God is working through you. And I feel like the reason I was here today to you is to say this. If you can hear this and then start the nap. You do make a difference. You make a bigger difference than you know. And of course, it does matter that we act with as much kindness as possible. So I'll end part 1 with a prayer. I wrote some kids' books of prayers. I don't make a penny off of them. If there's any extra money, it goes to help feed hungry kids. Big Al's first book was called My Sister is Annoying and Other Prayers for Children. And this one is called, I Get It, You Want Me to Be Good All Day? And it's called She Was Kind to Me Today, and it goes like this. She was kind to me today when others turned their heads. I could have felt so lonely. I felt your love instead. Thank you for her goodness, God. She helped me know you care. Her simple act of kindness showed that you were there. Part 1, you do make a difference. The second reason I would say that we do what we do, and these do get a little bit shorter, if there's any comfort in that. Well, 2, we are changed by the doing. I believe that if, as was suggested, we are present to what we do while we're doing it, we are ourselves changed. That something inside of us would die if we did not continue to try to do what we have been asked and called and empowered to do. And I'll tell you what a big question for me always is, to all of us asked to put words on things about faith. What do we really believe about those words? Now, seriously, when I was ordained a priest, it was late 1800s maybe. Archbishop May, who had ordained me, sent a letter to all the priests, and the letter came after we had spent several $100,000 for a heart transplant for a priest who was not particularly young. And the Archbishop said, we are self-insured and we will not be providing heart transplants for priests anymore. And he talked about the justice issues involved and then ended, gentlemen, either we believe in heaven or we don't. Now, sometimes we are asked to think again, do we believe what we profess, or perhaps sometimes even more, Jermaine, what do we believe about what we preach and teach and profess? Now, perhaps if you work with adolescents, or have them, or have had them, you've had an experience like this. After you give this excellent explanation of why this really does make sense, there is this pouting, bored look. What's your point? Now, this is why we try not to arm parents. But whether or not they're aware of it, and they're not, but they are asking a crucial question. Right? What is my point? I mean, seriously, what do I believe about this that I'm teaching? What difference does it make in how I live? Now, I will tell you this, when I am working on a homily or any kind of presentation, I didn't type up the question, but the huge question is 2 words long. It's called, so what? Now, I don't denigrate the value of education and accurate theological presentations. I don't. I did master's degrees and all that, and it's important, and yet it's too many homilies or thoughts that might be some, very cleverly crafted piece of accurate doctrine. But what would we say about why? What difference does Christmas, for example, incarnation, what difference does that make in my life? Well, what? Or Easter, or any of the great feasts, right? Okay, we're going to pray now, boys and girls. So, why? I mean, what happens when we pray? When I stand at the graveside of a loved one who has died, what does my faith really have to say to me about that? I mean, I know for some, it's almost discomforting to even think about these questions, right? And the answer we get is, well, because. Yeah? Because why? And I propose that unless you or I are able to, at least for ourselves, articulate some of the why of these words, the words have much less effect. Now, as an aside, I really do believe it is important that people see our joy. One of my mantras is, in the big scheme of things, there's always more reason for joy than not. I will never act like life is not hard. I know way too much. But it's also true that if I can't ultimately find joy in doing what I'm doing, it's probably good that I step back from doing that. Or at least work to see what I need to work on and to have God help me with to find joy again in proclaiming what I believe, right? So that adolescent annoying question is, so what's your point? It's the right question. So, answer number 2, I think that one of the reasons we do what we do is because we are changed by the doing. Part 3. Now, at 11:15 last night, I excerpted part 3 and hit it to the recycle bin and put in a whole new part 3. And so because it just felt like what maybe should be said. I'm going to use the metaphor of parenting here. Now, I'm very aware of how people like me are often so glib about parenting. It hurts my heart to hear a priest or minister on Mother's Day or Father's Day go, it's Mother's Day and we are all filled with great joy. No, we are not all filled with great joy, right? I mean, many people are grieving the death of a parent, grieving the relationship they never had with that parent, or are grieving their own inability to have kids. Plenty of parents are worried about their kids, angry at them, are heartbroken because they are estranged from them. And many parents, too many parents, know the excruciating, inexpressible pain of having buried a child. So there's my caveat, right? So I am currently working on a new book for grown-ups that I believe God's been wanting me to write on. It's called Perfectionism. Are you good enough yet? Okay, that's one working title. My first title was Perfectionism. Are you good enough at it? That's for people to open the dang book. On one level, it's ridiculous. I work 80, 85-hour weeks without that. But it's how God made me to do some good. So the way I would summarize part 3 is parenting, teaching, there's something of God that we taste in that moment. I couldn't think of a better verb. At 11:45. But there's something of God that we experience maybe. Okay, so I'm going to take some of the chapter called Imperfect Parenting, subtitled The Only Kind There Is, which I sent off to the publisher just the other day. I have here's the opening quote for this chapter, which I like. When my kids act up in public, I like to yell, wait until I tell your mother, and pretend they're not mine. It also provides some good strategies. Now, my family, one of the things we did is we coped with whatever growing up by humor. So I love things that make me laugh. I like that, you might know this. Someone once asked comedian Jim Gaffigan, what was it like having your 5th child? He replied, imagine that you're drowning and someone hands you a baby. Now, from my observation, most parents, even with number 2, feel that, right? I think when you have one child, you can double team. But when you got 2, you're outmanned. You got to go to a zone. It doesn't even make sense mathematically, but it just seems to be how it is. Parenting is truly an adventure, and I can't think of an adventure more exhausting and exciting, fulfilling and frustrating, terrifying and tremendous, heartbreaking and holy, and did I mention impossible to do perfectly? Many books of parenting, I think, leave people feeling more adequate than before they read them. And I don't know what the percentages would be, but in terms of what people post on social media, and I keep away from that for the most part, most people post, right, what? Their kids at their best, or themselves at their best, doing something fun, looking pretty. Nobody posts pictures of right after that big argument, right? Or that person hungover puking in the bathroom. Or that picture of the pile of bills in this hand bigger than the pile of cash in the other. I mean, whatever. And so please know that your children are not a referendum on your parenting skills or a reflection on how you are. You are important and beloved no matter what your children do or don't do, how they are or how they aren't. You influence your children profoundly, but your children are not you, and you are not them. And one of your most crucial jobs, I believe, is to do what you can to make sure your children know that you see them as they are and that you love them for who they are, and you do this in only the way you can. And there's no right or wrong way to know, or there's no way, there's no right or wrong way to do all that, and there's no way to know in advance. Like things that seemed to work well when my kid was this age don't work anymore 2 months later. Or what seemed to work well for this kid does not work for that kid. The adjustments don't end. And some find that a sense of humor helps. When my cousin Mickey's kids were young, she said to me once, a lot of people put aside money for their kids' college education. She goes, I'm putting aside money for their counseling because I know I'm screwing them up. And she was only half joking. Now, if I were a parent, and I am not, my brother Dennis said, it's a good thing because there's no lifeguard at the gene pool. Yeah. Try not to put that sentence in the book. I would find comfort in this statement from pediatrician Rebecca Diamond, who said, if you still think there's such a thing as perfect parenting, just know that I am a pediatrician and parenting author, and my toddler is eating strawberries dipped in ketchup for dinner tonight. And the letting goes are countless. I think this is true in part for guys, but it's especially true and viscerally for moms. My favorite definition of motherhood, that incredible risk to have a part of your heart walk outside of your body for the rest of your life. And one of the and somebody raised the question of balance. One of the many things books I read or listened to an Audible and researching over the last year and a half for this, the author, a counselor, says that the thought of balance is almost an impossible ideal when you're a mom. Mostly you do what you can to be okay. Anyway, skip a few things, but my point is, if you're a parent, and I think there's something analogous if you're a teacher, that you have a unique insight into God's heart. And parents of young ones sometimes tell me that. Whatever the day was like, when they see their kids sleeping and they're tucking them in, they remember again why they love them. Well, I do think they're so cute sleeping as far as survival of the species, I do think. That was a little dark. But I would say this, and again, I know we're just so glib about all of this, it's so problematic and so challenging in so many ways, but that love that you feel well up inside of you, let's pick that moment, if it's a good moment like that when they're sleeping, that not only is what God is like, that actually is God in you. Repeat that. That is not only what God is like, that is God in you. And when you're working with children with profound special needs and challenges, it's not fun. A lot of the time, I wouldn't think. But the love that is resolute in you to do what is needed to be done is not only what God is like, it is God in you. And so for all of you, when the days are really hard and the tears gather at the corner of your eyes or bring you sobbing to your knees, I hope that you can have a sense that you get God in a way others of us could not, and that God gets you. And there's truly a special place in God's heart for you. All right. I'm going to pause for just a moment here. If you would, if you have a notebook or not make a mental thought, just anything that has struck you so far from this presentation that you want to remember. I'm throwing a whole bunch of words, even if Father Joe is the speaker at the retreat again, sleep during that and then come back. Or hit everybody else's fridge to drink first. I can tell I'm fascinated by that. Sorry, I'll quit talking. A moment or two, anything you want to remember that strikes you, just make a note to yourself. back to those in a minute, so I'll give you another 20 seconds. Here's what we'll do next. I have my final thought. We'll have a brief discussion, a guided meditation to end. I always feel like I should explain this, that like I already said, I don't make any money off of books, so I just don't. But people, if they are interested, oops, put this, I remember changing this late last night. There you go. I have a little nonprofit, we're all volunteers, Gospel Values Online, where you can find stuff. Our parish website is cleverly Sacred Heart Eureka. My brother Bill is now at Sacred Heart. They're both called Most Sacred Heart, which I didn't know. Somebody's from Valley Park. I didn't, until I got to be the pastor at Sacred Heart in Eureka, I didn't know it was officially Most Sacred Heart. And so some of the guys were telling me, yeah, when we play Valley Park, we say, yeah, we're Most Sacred Heart. You guys are merely Sacred Heart. There's a movement now that I'm there to rename it slightly less Sacred Heart. And on a parish webpage, the middle box is called, there's three big whatevers, faith, and on there you can, we video homilies and kids' messages with my helper Big Al. We have an icon for priest mass schedule for the rest of the month, so my siblings wouldn't have to accidentally show up at a mass that I have. And we have a parish Facebook page, which I am told if you like, you get a link to the homily from that weekend. So anyway, that's enough of that. All right, so I gotta go backwards a bit. So I mentioned part 5, why we do what we do, and this might be more me than you, but
Did I miss 4?
No, it was 4.
Or was that the 3B or?
we missed.
It's in the recycling.
I had not gotten into your guys' fridge before I did this. Okay, so I am not a math teacher. Okay, so let's take a look here. 1 was you do make a difference.
Yeah.
2, we are changed by the doing.
Yeah.
3 was we taste God.
Yes.
4 is this. Thank you. I wondered why I had that out of order there. I turned 2 pages at once. It was not a night of a whole many hours of sleep, so I'll blame everything on that. So let's see if I can. Be a perfectionist and write a book on perfectionism. It is fun on some level. Well, I'll go back a second. I go, in my little intro, I said, I'm not a scholar, I'm not a professional counselor, I'm not this. I said, yeah, I'm just kind of a generalist, a pastor who loves people. I go, but I said I'm not a scholar. I said, actually, I love my new self-description born of the pandemic. It's been said that I'm a carrier of intelligence, but I'm often asymptomatic. So, no one would argue. I wouldn't think. So, number 4, just making sure you were paying attention. Let's see here. Everybody's going to go back here. Yes, number 4 is all about the journey itself. All right. It's important. It was 1986, and something would change in me forever. Now, all I was doing was knocking mud off the cleats of my old beat up soccer shoes now. In those days I was playing a lot of sports, and he was a young priest. I just finished some drills all by myself in this field behind the rectory, and I was playing with these guys who were much better than me, these farmer pros, all kinds of. Anyway, so I did what I could. I overtrained, which is why my knees are also beat up now. But anyway, as I held my soccer shoes on that cool October evening as the sun set, the most amazing thing happened. Nothing. I mean, nothing out there, something in here. It was like for a moment I woke up and was right there. I don't even know what grace prompted that, but suddenly I could feel the cool air, see the beautiful sunset, smell the mud of my cleats, and I was so aware and awake and alive. It was for, and I mean, it's still so vivid all these years later. It was for me what the Irish would call a thin place, where the veil between this world and the next is very thin. Normally there seems to be this veil that kind of separates these two worlds, but it was the thin places, and typically, actually, the death of a loved one. Sometimes there's moments like that that are thin places. We see how the veil between this world and the next is thin. Like often when a person is dying, they'll start to go back and forth between those two worlds. I mean, I've seen it so often. But anyway, we see how deeply connected we are. And I think we will have the Transfiguration Gospel this Sunday when Peter says, Lord, it's good to be here. Of course, the veil was really thin, and you can't manufacture it and you can't keep it, but you can savor it while you have it. And usually we move so quickly, we don't notice the moments. That's why I was glad a couple people talked about wanting to be present in life while we have it. You know, we are made, we just kind of think, well, put it in terms of temporally, we tend to often enough live in the past, regretting it, or lamenting that those were the good days. I think more of us these days tend to live in the future, anxiety, when this or when that, and yet we're not there. And then we miss the life we have. So there are skills that help me become aware of the present moment. One thing I do, and that sounds weird, but I step inside myself a half of an inch and watch myself watching. When I'm preparing a couple for the marriage gets closer to the wedding day, I go, you can have a couple moments like this, maybe two. Where like you are aware that you are there, right there. You could always go back to that moment. My gosh, I'm sitting here, look at all these people, this is my wedding day. Because otherwise, I mean, pictures are fine, videos are fine, but we miss it while we have it, which is the real thing. So a few months after that moment with my soccer cleats, I was visiting one of our kids who was in jail, some stupidity, and she asked one thing of me: could I bring her a poster that we had on the wall of our little youth group cave, whatever, and they wouldn't allow me to bring the whole poster, but I was able to get just the words to her, and she kept them in her cell the entire time, and the words were this: I was regretting the past and fearing the future. Suddenly my God was speaking, my name is I am. God paused, I waited. God continued. When you live in the past with its mistakes and regrets, it is hard. I am not there. My name is not I was. When you live in the future with its problems and fears, it is hard. I am not there. My name is not I will be. When you live in this moment, it is not hard. I am here. My name is I am. For those awake enough to see, even a jail cell can be a thin place. presence of God and the beauty of love is always there, waiting for us to come awake to it, really. Seeing what is most real, moments of heartache and laughter and driving our kids to school or cleaning the mud off the soccer shoes. All the love in the world awaits us. And so, as I make my way through life and you do, let's pray for each other to be awake to that. Okay. Do I now have your permission to go to number 5?
Yes.
Oh, it's a fun place. And I'd like to go on record, Paul, if you could make note, I just actually filtered. That just happened right there. I didn't say something out loud that was up there, so it's kind of a big day. I'm so grown up. So the next one is, this is me, but I hope this is true for you. Sometimes it just is fun, isn't it? I hope, right? When I got to my new parish, there was a number of challenges, and oh boy, here was my mantra that God somehow put on my heart: savor the blessings, trust the chaos. At times of transition, savor the blessings, trust the chaos. I have so many blessings, I don't want to be blind to them. And I had plenty of chaos, but I have so many reasons to trust and so many blessings along the way. And sometimes it is just fun. I mean, and why not? I mean, one of the things that helps me is to laugh, right? So, like for example, when I want to share communication skills, here is number 10. If you can read it, ask people questions that give them an opportunity to talk about themselves. They'll share. Or my family. Maybe there's 6 kids, but this picture still made me think of my family. Every family has one. I have a short, the chapters are short. That was almost all the chapter there, but the chapters are short in the book, and one of them is called The Goal. One is called Your Brain Is Not Your Friend. No, is your brain your friend? And then the next chapter is Shame Is Not Your Friend. And then the next chapter is Laughter Is Your Friend. Okay, so anyway, but on the one called Goals, this was the title of a dieting book. You might have seen this. So goals have their place, but we can be so goal-driven we miss things. And sometimes I just think people are funny, and so I like laughing at other people's humor besides my own. Here's your restaurant, this kind of thing. I could imagine myself saying, "How do you prepare the chicken?" This is stupid. It's so stupid. Anyway, I did work for a while in restaurant industry, but I was not much of a smart aleck then. And I don't know if I kept this one more picture in here or not last night, but I don't know, for all of you who work with kids or whoever had young ones, yep. There are ways around the rules. Yeah. So anyway, I do believe that there is laughter in the heart of God, and plenty of reasons to do so, and ultimately following that way of that man Jesus, and with the presence of the Christ now, it is a deep joy to be found in no other way. Okay, so before a little guided prayer, and we have just a little bit of time left, so I would love to hear any of the things that maybe you had written down about what helps you go on. I would, if we had a little more time, I'd maybe have you share with one person next to you, and then you could copy their answers. But I'd be surprised if anybody thought of these 5. These are not the most important always. These are just the 5 that seem important to me at this time. So anybody mind sharing anything about why you do what you do. No right answers, no wrong answers. Please.
I think I wrote down a bunch of things, but one of my biggies is, yeah, I'm trying to teach French, but basically I want every child in my classroom to know that I love them and that they are worthy of self-love, my love, and they're
God.
lovable. Absolutely.
Love it. Can you guys hear that?
Absolutely.
It's a shame, it was brilliant. Yes, she wants them to learn French, but she also, because she wants them to know they are worthy of love. Amen. Love that. By the way, I love what Steve Martin said about the French language. So whenever I think of this again, he said, did you know that in France, the word for egg is œuf? Did you know that in France, the word for head is chapeau? He goes, those French, they have a different word for everything. Yeah, so okay. My brain is filled with stupidity. Okay, others. Please.
Weeks and weeks I read in the bulletin, we need PSR teachers, we need PSR teachers, and I thought, you know what? I'll do it, nobody else will do it, I'll do it.
I will fill the need. No one else will do it? Love it. Love it. Yes, more. Please.
So at the school I'm at now for 13 years, because of my past, I can relate to these kids. And so, to piggyback on you, and even when I was at St. Anne, when I was at Normandy, Fort Zumwalt, it's like my goal is that no matter what somebody said to you, no matter what anybody's done to you, you are important, you have gifts to share. And I used to say to my class at St. Anne every day when we left, I had 8th graders, go out and share your gifts with the world.
Thank
And
you.
I think kids really need to do that.
Yes, thank you. Yes. You guys rock.
I love what you said about we are changed by the doing. I never really thought about that, but when I took a minute to think back of when I first started teaching 4th grade, and who I was and where I was in my own faith journey and my relationships with the students. Through the time I finished being a campus minister at DeBerg, my faith had grown through the students, and had I not, I don't think it would have grown without them. So they led me to where I was, and change happened. Then once I moved here, it wasn't the students that was changing me, but the retreatants coming in. And how would I have known that
Without doing it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because you couldn't have expected that. Thank you. I love it. Yeah, it's my experience as well. I mean, I came to do what bit I could, not like I need more to do. So, but sometimes something needs to be done. But I walk away from here today a little more tired, but better for having been with you. Yeah, thank you.
So on that same line, I learned more about myself last year, in my first year teaching at age 65 than I had learned any year
Wow.
in my entire life.
Wow.
Wow.
I learned more about myself, that I could do really hard things,
Right,
things
right.
There you
that
go.
really
Right.
scared me.
And it makes you feel alive.
Wow.
Yeah, exactly. So at 65, I'm not thinking, well, I'm gonna go retire and go away. Which,
Right.
I mean, I will
Good for
eventually.
you.
But I can still try to do hard things.
Right.
In other venues.
I love it. Just one quick thing. So I was working with a counselor yesterday. We're doing an intervention on anger situation, but afterwards we chatted, and he said, I'm not retiring. I'm stepping away from this. He goes, I'm rewiring. And he explained it more, and I get it. Yeah.
Because I've been semi-retired my husband and I moved here 9 years ago for a job, and I kind of semi-retired. So I've been in this semi-retirement thing for a while.
Yeah.
Man, 3 days a week, it's sometimes a little bit more than that, but yeah, it's a crazy year.
Love it. Please continue to share with each other. I'm going to lead a brief meditation. Then we'll, I think, have a break, and then we'll get ready for Mass. There's things that, so there was a smart aleck thing there was a question about, there's so many things going on at the parish, and had some issues with, some electricity and stuff. I said, let's just put up a sign that says, hosts are on the altar, help yourself, I'm out of here. But I'm gonna stay. So, this meditation comes from a time when I felt on my deacon retreat before ordination, we're supposed to, after each presentation, go to our room for an hour and pray, and I felt so incompetent. And I was sure if I could peek under the door, which I wouldn't want to, my classmates would be aglow. Or they'd be hovering above the bed a bit, or something. And I just felt like I'm talking to myself in darkness. I had this thought: what if Jesus came in and sat down here? I could talk to him. And Anthony DeMello actually, in his book Sedona, mentioned a bedridden person who, after a while, felt no one could pray. And he suggested you put a chair next to him and talk to the chair. So Jesus is right there. So this is a quick moment like that. I'll do kind of a shorter form. I'll put a little music on in the background to help you get a sense of being somewhere else. And what I want you to do is picture a place you could be alone, that you feel safe. Picture it. Indoors, outdoors, I don't care. But just take a few moments and then I'll lead you in a little guided meditation. Don't be distracted by what I lead. Go wherever you're led. So, take a few good deep breaths. Become aware of having a body, being alive, of being you. Now, be in your imagination alone, someplace beautiful, or not beautiful. Maybe the only spot you could imagine is the bathroom door dead bolted. If you're outdoors, is there a breeze? If you're indoors, what does a chair feel like, the room look like? Suppose you knew that in just a minute, Jesus was going to come there and just sit down. You just had 30 seconds with him, just the two of you. But now you got a minute to think about what you would do with that time. So, what would you do? Is there something you would want to thank Jesus for? What would you thank him for? Something you want to say you're sorry about? What something pop up like that? What would that be? Something you want to ask his help with? Some concern? What might those be? Or maybe there'd be no words. Just take 30 more seconds to think about what you would do if you had that bit of time. Now, as you are there in your quiet place, somehow with words or without words, you hear Jesus say your name. He's there. He knows who you are. And Jesus tells you this is just the two of you for a moment. What's on your heart? Well, go ahead. Tell Jesus what's on your heart. have just a little more time. Is there anything else you wanted to say or even do with that time? Now Jesus says to you, please know that I understand what it is like to be you. He looks right at you and says, I get you, and I am with you, and I will be with you always. And then if you want to hug him or have him hug you or shake hands or somehow take a moment. And now Jesus is gone from your sight. As you look around that place, you don't see him, but can you sense his presence still there somehow? Now as you come back to awareness of this place, can you still sense somehow that Jesus is with you? All right, I know that some people use imagination more readily than others. If there was any blessing in that, I'm glad. You can do that again as however you would want to. If it was difficult for you or you fell asleep, it's okay. It's still true. Jesus is there he gets you, is with you always. So, all right. It was delightful to be with you, an honor to be a part of these few moments of your one precious life. And again, important to me. Thank you for all the good you do that no one will ever know. You make more of a difference than you realize.